What's up, everybody? Brett here, and I'm back today casting another Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer replay. This time it's going to be a 2v2. Going to be me playing as the Empire. Check my build out, guys. Super fun. I wanted to do something cav-centric, and I went ahead and did it. My ally is going to be Triari playing as his favorite High Elves, and we're up against Tovin the Cowardly with the Beastmen. Pretty well-rounded Beastmen build, I have to say, with Morgr double caster, which is something we're seeing a ton in the meta now. And best of gores for that hard-hitting infantry. And Morgr is one of those characters that's just always good with his Chaos Spawn summons. So one of the casters is the Lore of Shadows, the other being the Brace Shaman Lore of Beasts. I'm going to be going for Flock of Doom and Mass Manticore Summon is what I would expect. And then for the Brettonian player, let's go ahead and slow it down for a second before we get really into it. He's got some fire arrows in the back. Huh. I wonder why fire arrows. Maybe just wanted a little bit of extra armor piercing. There's not really anything on this side of the battlefield that's going to have any sort of weakness to fire. A front line of spearmen. So lots of spearmen here are going to be pretty relevant against my build, that's for sure. And some foot squires here on the top and down there for some armor piercing. And a very cool unit. You don't get to see a ton anymore, but the Grail Relic giving those bonuses in an AoE if we can ever get around it. Okay, so Icon of Devotion, 12 leadership, and immunopsychology. That's pretty sweet. And it has Frenzy. This thing never gets any kills. But with the Damsel with the Lore of Life is one of those magics that the Beastmen don't have access to. And giving healing to something as powerful as a Bestigor herd or the Koroks Man Rippers, these guys are going to be absolute heavy hitters against our forces, especially considering my composition. That is for sure. So he's also got a ton of Centaurs as well. Some of them have been Vanguard deployed here. They have throwing axes, and they're immediately going to be discovered by me. I have a group of Reichsguard here, and Knights of the Blazing Sun with the Warrior Priest and their buffs. They're on standard horses to cut costs. They're not barded. But with Battle Prayers, Soulfire, which has been greatly increased in strength in the most recent patches, and Shield of Faith giving damage resistance in an AoE. Knights of the Blazing Sun and their fire damage, much better versus infantry, are the Reichsguard and Knights of the Blazing Sun, which is mostly what I expected from the Beastmen and Brettonians. I wasn't thinking there would be too much cav, but what cav there was, I was thinking we could, destroy ourselves. We have Keepers of the Flame, Phoenix Guard, lots of Spearmen here in the front line, some white lines of Trace. But we have two groups of standard Demigryph Knights with Halberds, not the Regiment of Renown. We were trying to cut costs here any way we could, and our Lord here is the Arch-Lector. Same three skills as our other Warrior Priests. So we have three Warrior Priests essentially. These two groups are identical. We're trying to be extremely mobile. These guys are going to be there to destroy the large targets that we need destroyed. We want to get into the back line with our Reichsguard and Knights of the Blazing Sun and make these little pockets of extremely heavily armored mobile resistance that we can try and not abuse is probably too strong of a word, but that we can try and use to crush everything on the other side of the battlefield. If we have to fight Grail Knights, we're going to want to do it with Demigryphs. And if we have to fight lots and lots of infantry, Bestigors, things like that, then we're going to try and do it with the Reichsguard and the Knights of the Blazing Sun. So here in the back we've got Albrecht de Bordelot with his anti-large bonuses. Very good choice against all the things that we have on our side of the battlefield. Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis. These guys have Frenzy. Very cost-effective Regiment of Renown unit. If I'm playing Bretonnia, I'm almost guaranteed to bring them. Knights of the Realm, anti-large. We've got the Knights of the Lionhearted, a super cool ROR unit. Another unit that I pretty much always bring myself. They cause fear, and they have an encouragement aura. They have magical damage, they're anti-large. They're borderline a Grail Knight when you consider all the stat increases that being rank 9 gives them. And then Grail Guardians here. Another unusual pick, but one of my favorite units on the roster of Bretonnia as well. Just super tanky. You throw them in the front line. They have perfect vigor, 20% physical resistance, immunopsychology, and they will do a ton of work for you, especially with the support of, a Lore of Life caster who does have Earthblood, who does have Regrowth, Shield of Thorns, Awaken the Wood, and all the standard spells that you would expect with Life Bloom to trigger that healing. And then Triari here bringing a Star Dragon and a Frostheart Phoenix, one of his favorite 1-2 punches. Frostheart Phoenix has debuffs in an AoE, while the Star Dragon is one of the most hard-hitting monsters in the game. Its breath attacks are devastating. And then, of course, Alariel the Radiant giving us some healing options into the late game. Star of Avalorn, Foz Protection, Earthblood, and I see, yeah, it's going to have lots and lots of Winds of Magic on her. And yeah, I just have a pretty small core here of infantry. I didn't want to completely cheese and go full cavalry. Although, you know, in a 2v2, I don't really consider that cheese. You know, as long as one person is covering one aspect of army building while the other person covers another. But I didn't want to leave him hanging, bearing the full bulk of any type of infantry style play that we might be facing. I wanted to have some units to supplement his more expensive units. So unfortunately for us, these Centaurs are getting into the back line. I remember now that I waited to reveal myself until after they had already crossed this kind of threshold here and engaged. And now they're out of luck. As fast as they are, if we can catch them and hit them, they are screwed. They're trapped kind of behind enemy lines. They're doing good work, but now that I see all of these units here, we've got Ungor Raiders with chevrons, actually. And then the Sons of Goros here. We're going to get our charges off at the last second. The Sons of Goros are great. They're great weapon units. They can do a ton of damage, on the charge especially. I'm going to try and go up and around a little bit here with the Rice Guard, but I'm going to get caught by these great weapon units. But once we tear these down, if we can tear them down, these Ungor Raiders are going to be easy pickings for us. Sadly, however, we don't seem to have anything else to protect our back line from these Centaurs, and the Keepers of the Flame are popping. You can see when they burst into flames as they die. A breath attack going off on these Foot Squires took them down by 16 unit models. That's pretty nice, but the Star Dragon took a lot of hits as well. And now it's going to be a bit of an air fight here. Alberic's in the wrong neighborhood. A Star Dragon plus a Lariel and a Frost Phoenix. Maybe he just wanted to bait out some spells, which he certainly did. I saw Faw's protection go down plus some healing. And meanwhile, I'm just going to be skirting up and around with my cavalry. Beastman player here wisely pulling back his Bestigor herds to defend his ally, trying to protect their peasant bowmen. But we've managed to catch out all of these Centaurs and just the sheer armor. These units were made to fight infantry, but with basically no armor on the Sons of... Well, actually, the Sons of Goros have 70. They're unique. They're a regiment of renown. They're quite strong. But the normal Centaurs with great weapons, yeah, 35. They just can't stand up to this much armor. And with the support of the Warrior Priest, they're going to get smashed. And thankfully for us, they are near the edge of the battlefield. So they're just going to rout off. So that's 2 units right off the bat we managed to chase off. And that was a pretty powerful get, considering how much damage we are taking back here on the Keepers of the Flame. And perhaps a little bit of a late Earthblood here. You really want to use it before your unit models start actually dropping. So he's already lost 13 models on the Keepers. But as soon as they started throwing, that's about when you want to start using your Earthblood. It'll keep those models healthy. And will keep your unit model high. And at that point, you can kind of cast Regrowth. But we're chasing them. We're chasing them back into their formation. We're not letting them, take this huge section of the field. We've basically taken the very highly mobile forces of Bretonnia and the Beastmen, and we've pushed them into a corner. Now, granted, it's a pretty well-defended corner, but that's what we've done. Supporting here with these swordsmen, they're going to get a nice charge onto the spearmen. Phoenix Guard getting shot at. Interesting choice. I mean, they technically don't have a shield, but they're heavily armored and they have physical resistance. And I'm just kind of being a little bit careful. I'm pretty sure at this point I know that these knights are here. I've seen that this back line is heavily defended. So I'm not just going to throw my units away. My warrior priest here is going a little too deep though. But he's going to be pretty tanky. He'll survive on his own. But I'm not going to let my infantry or my cavalry get trapped just because, my warrior priest is trapped. We're going to see what he can do by himself. And we're going to continue looking for opportunities to get into the back line. Chaos Spawn being summoned behind the swordsman mixed with the white lions. And these guys are blenders. They'll tear into us. Star of Avalorn here is going to be great. Plus an Earthblood upgraded. So Alberic is kind of in a bad spot. This is not where he wants to be. We're going to be dropping that Soulfire. It does decent damage versus the Peasant Bowmen because they're so lightly armored. And to try and keep these Keepers of the Flame in the fight, we're going to go ahead and commit our cavalry. But look at this overwhelming force on this flank. We really don't have a chance. We're just trying to hold them in place as much as we can. Alberic here is a little bit worse for the wear. He could seriously use some healing. Keepers of the Flame almost up to 50. Already up to 50 kills. And just as much as they're overwhelming this flank, we are overwhelming this one. And once we're able to collapse it, we will get back in there and do something else. I've got these spearmen running these Centigores with throwing axes down. You'll see here they just wasted the last of their ammunition. And that's a pretty good investment for me. Those spearmen at this point are probably worth about 150 gold. And to use them to chase off those units I thought was pretty valuable. And if they want to turn and fight, they'll lose that fight. And the spearmen will still take them at that point. Knights of the Blazing Sun, you can see they get that acceleration on the charge. You gotta love it. And they're going to support these Reichsguard and tearing up these Bestigors. It's just a huge free-for-all. They've got their cheap spears, which are going to do surprisingly well versus us. But like I've said before, the heavy armor, the 120 armor on these units, is really the name of the game. Another unit of Chaos Spawn going off. Also, I want to say that I love the changes coming down in the next patch. This blue aura turning from orange to red to let you know just how much time you've got left on those summons. And we're just in the fights, guys. Our warrior priest that was stuck back here is still fighting. Up to 39 kills. Is in decent health also. And my arch lector here is engaging with the Grail Guardians. And we're going to try and win this fight just through sheer attrition and overwhelming them. Going up and around with our Demigryph Knights, chasing off the remnants of these Knights of the Realm. And any other units that try and come back. It's not the best use of an extremely expensive unit like this, but, you know, it's what I've got in the area. And any unit that we chase off is another unit we won't have to fight in the late game. And I will say, guys, that this battle is one of those that goes on into the super late game. Demigryph Knights still haven't lost a single model yet. See if they can get into the back of these peasant bowman archers. There we go. They rounded, they crested that hill. And just a huge charge. And they're going to destroy them in short order. Whether or not they're the halberd version or the standard version, it doesn't matter. Peasant bowmen are going to get torn up. And Bestigors are coming to support, but they're not the Koroks Man Rippers. And with Soulfire giving us that magic resistance, it's going to negate this Flock of Doom, which was super timely. I thought I was pretty clever for doing that. But this other warrior priest used his as well. So I've got two warrior priests slightly overlapping. Trying my best never to put them in exactly the same spot. You'll see there a breath attack going off from the Star Dragon before it completely routs. Not sure what did so much damage to it. Wouldn't be surprised if it was Albrecht de Bordelot and some of these Knights of the Lion-Hearted, though. Just constantly remicroing my cavalry, trying to bring them back. These spearmen units were not braced, so they're going to take the full charge. Let's see if we can cut them down. That's a pretty atrocious fight, though. Another Soulfire going off. There's no limit to the number of those I can get in a battle. And in giant blob fights like this, spread out like here, here, and here, I mean, I can get pretty decent coverage with all of my buffs. Shield of Faith giving, 22% ward save to all my units in this area. Melee attack, pretty sweet. What else we got? Okay, I was trying to cycle them as best I could so that we were constantly getting that type of coverage that would help us to win these fights. Another Grand Shield of Faith going off. And my Arch Lector's only got 6 kills, but he's been fighting pretty elite cavalry this whole time. And he's smacking his hammer into these Grail Guardians. Not the best for getting kills, but definitely think of him more of like a Rune Lord from the Dwarven lineup. That's kind of how you have to play him. Don't know if there's any, breath attacks left on the Star Dragon, but a big charge there should do some damage. And Alariel picked somebody up and threw her into the air. And the Star of Avalorn just a bit too late to help the Star Dragon, since Morgar came into the back and smacked him with his lobster claw. But my warrior priest is there, and he's getting healed up a ton. So not a completely dead cast, thankfully. My other warrior priest is over here trying to beat down this Bray Shaman with the Lore of Beasts. I don't think we've seen any Manticore summons, interestingly enough. Probably would have been great for this battle. Some of my Demigryphs here are nearly broken off. I wish I'd have charged them in to Ungor Raiders. That probably would have stabilized them, taking a fight that they knew they could win. But we've got units all over the battlefield, guys. The Centigores have managed to kind of outmaneuver me, but the Spearmen are still coming, and they're a full group. These Bestigors and Ungor Spearmen are joining the fight after probably taking it to my remaining cavalry out here on the flanks. But never give up any units. Even if you've got a unit, all they have left is 6 models, keep them in the rear in case, you see a unit that's running off the battlefield. Use that nearly dead unit to chase them off. That's a way to get some extra value from your fleeing units. See if we can get here at ground level and take a look at some of these fights. Phoenix Guard here still with 87 models being backed up by the White Lions. And they're in a fight that they like. I mean, White Lions versus Korok's Man-Rippers. The Korok's Man-Rippers will win that, no doubt. But they are more geared towards fighting this type of enemy, whereas Koroks really want to be fighting large targets. And unfortunately, with the support of Morgar, I think the White Lions are probably not long for this world. The Phoenix Guard, I think, though, will handily beat these Vestigor herds. But at what cost? You know, they're going to take a ton of damage in that fight. Good play here from the Brettonian player, getting his archers back online. The Ungor Raiders here are definitely making the difference. We've pinned in for so long thanks to these Grail Guardians, but they're finally starting to fall. Only 9 units left. Go ahead and take a look at their kills. 112 kills. Good on them. But they're holding us back. They're keeping us from shutting down these range tools. Even these cheap Ungor Spearman herds. Fighting toe-to-toe with what Spearmen I have left. 71 of them. And at this point, I'm just doing what I've been doing the whole game. Trying to spread my warrior priests out to make sure that I'm maximizing the areas in the battlefield where I get those buffs. See if we can shut down these little bastions of leadership here. The Shamans kind of have to go. Grand Shield is going to make these units so much steadier. And we should have another Soulfire Bombardment coming down. Awesome, and that's going to rout these Spearmen here. These Vestigors, though, are very healthy. And they're getting into the battle, but Frostart Phoenix is applying those debuffs. But is he going away? A full unit of Centaurs with throwing axes coming in for the charge. They do decent damage on the charge, but they're kind of too squishy to stay in. And nice pulling out there. He would have got hit by that Soulfire had he not. And the Phoenix Guard are just absolute tanks over here. I wish we could support them. They're holding up a lot of very dangerous units right now. That much armor piercing, Morgar himself, you know, if he was over here, we'd probably have some units routing. He could very easily kill my warrior priest. And at this point, Triari and I both agree, like, we need to rally to these guys. We need to come over here with everything we have and try and, you know, maybe pick off Morgar. Maybe just charge into the rear of these Korok's Man-Rippers. Break what we can. With Albrecht de Bordeleau kind of gone from the battlefield, there's no real dangerous mobile threat left. Would love to get rid of this Damsel with the Lore of Life as well. Perhaps Hilarial will take it to her with her pigeon. Pigeon of Death. But now I've got 2 warrior priests in this fight. My Arch-Lector is coming. But their dang Ungor Raiders are still in it. Phoenix Guard up to 120 kills. Let's go ahead and K-mode this. Just a bloody atrocious fight as the Arch-Lector charges in. I know it's him because he's got the armored horse, even though the models kind of look similar. Soulfire, absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to test it myself after the changes to see just how much more damage it does. The 2 birds charge in. Not doing the most damage, but sometimes you can break even elite infantry like the Vestigors just with a nice rear charge, which is what we're going to be trying to do here. Centaurs. Looks like they're killing some routing spearmen, high elf spearmen. And they've got one of my warrior priests isolated. Let's go ahead and put the unit cards and everything back up. It's kind of hurt. Yeah, one of my warrior priests took a ton of damage. He's down to 359 health. But these peasant bowmen aren't able to fire anymore. We've got some white lions coming into the back. Maybe they'll get on these Ungor Raiders. I'm not sure. I've got some Reichsguard, tattered Reichsguard, and Spearmen trying to come back. Would be surprised, though, if they routed before they were ever able to make it into combat. But the name of the game right now is how much healing does Hilarial have left? How well can I cycle my battle abilities on my warrior priests? And whether or not we can take on this many elite infantry units with Morgar supporting them with just the few things that we have left. The Spearmen might be able to block for our warrior priests, bring him back into the fight. It's hard to tell. One of my other warrior priests was routing as well, but he's now coming back. And sadly, these Spearmen just absolutely shatter. Turns out 45 Spearmen would have been great. Actually, probably could have killed these dudes if they would have just stood and fought. Oh, you can see the Soulfire in the distance. It looks so awesome. But these Reichsguard are happy to take this fight. And they managed to kill my warrior priest, sadly. Is that him? That's his horse anyway. Someone better pick up that Book of Sigmar. And the other warrior priest who was super hurt, he rallied about here, and instead of bringing him back to this atrocious blob, I decided to bring him out here to try and rout off some of the enemies that were near the edge of the battlefield, and to try and beat this Bray Shaman in combat. Now, he is a large target, and in the forest he's going to get some debuffs, whereas the Bray Shaman will not. But he was able to shatter him, and at that point, I microed him over here to ensure the Lionhearted rode off. These Foot Squires, 21 of them need to go, and then once they do, I'll probably make sure that these Peasant Bowmen disappear as well. And there's still quite the bastion of power here. 2 units of Bestigors, about 80 in all. You've got 37 Koroks Man-Rippers with some chaff to support them. You've got 1 group of Centaurs here, with still enough unit models left to cycle charge. And then 2 groups of Ungor Raiders, who could be shooting in. I'm not quite sure. Maybe their line of sight is blocked. It's kind of hard to see how, though. They're at the top of a hill. They still have plenty of ammo. And all you need to do at this point, I think, to win is to keep Morgar inside of this blob. Keep him on a target that he knows he can beat so he stays confident. And cycle charge with the Centaurs. And, I mean, Alariel at, 30% health. A Frostheart Phoenix at about 60% health. And my Arch Lector at about maybe 45% health is really not going to be a ton that can stop all of this. But this is going to be super atrocious, guys. Like I said, I'm going to be using this Warrior Priest to rout off certain units. Triari's going to be going in for some cycle charging while my Arch Lector holds this, blob in place. You'll see here Terror taking hold. And I'm going to do whatever I have to do to shatter this Bray Shaman. The balance of power is dead even right now. You'll very rarely see it that even. And very soon, something incredibly annoying is going to happen. Something that CA has said that they fixed in the upcoming patch. Once this Warrior Priest routes, and I think he routes pretty soon here, it gives me army losses. It gives me army losses, but it makes it so that I can still control my Warrior Priest, or my Arch Lector rather. Which is crazy because what it does is it takes away my unit cards at the bottom. It takes away my portrait in the bottom left. So it makes it so that I cannot use any of my Arch Lector's abilities. Which was incredibly frustrating because we were still fighting. This battle was still going on. My Arch Lector still is, he has HP. My ally's Lord is still here. We have the Frostheart Phoenix. And I had these 3 abilities that I wanted to continuously cycle, but I couldn't do it. And the Warrior Priest trying to juke and jive, but these Centaurs are super fast. They have perfect vigor too. They're still considered fresh, so they don't lose any type of speed or anything like that. And the Warrior Priest is going to get a few more swings in with his Righteous Hammer, but that's going to be it for him, and he dies. And at this point, I'm pretty sure I've experienced army losses. We'll see if I use another ability, but I'm pretty sure that was it. And it's just us 3 here. These 3 units versus, everything that the Beastmen player still has left. The Brettonian player is completely offline. And I'm communicating with Triari right now in Discord to talk to him. I'm like, man, I can't use any of my buffs. I can't do anything. I'm lucky, I think, at this point that I can still control the Arch Lector. Because, what if it had just completely taken control of him from me and forced him to flee off the battlefield? That would have sucked as well. Now, Morgar does do poison damage. Coming into contact with him, letting him hit me, you'll see there it gives me that poison debuff, which lowers my speed, armor piercing missile damage doesn't matter. But it lowers your weapon strength as well. And the Arch Lector is not really known for his weapon strength. He's not really there to get kills, even though my Warrior Priests and things did get quite a few kills this battle. But I'm getting hit in the back now by Morgar, which is rough. Either way I fight, I'm going to be turning my back to some sort of threat. And my Arch Lector is broken, but the battle's not done yet. Let's go ahead and fast forward it a bit. Triari's going to cycle charge. Pretty much the best option you have in these types of situations. Neither one of us wanted to lose. I'm doing my best to aid in which ways I can. Morgar's going to chase off the Arch Lector. Now, if our Arch Lector breaks off 3 times, he'll shatter. And he's broken off twice already. Morgar's going to try to break him off, but I'm not going to let him get into range. So we're going to try and back up. He's using Call of Violence to make sure that his leadership stays steady. But the big mistake here was separating from what remaining infantry he had left. And Morgar, even at this point, he has regeneration. as a Beastman Lord, he's the only one that has regen, which makes him an incredibly tough duelist on foot. With that poison, with his regeneration, he's not easy to take down. And once my Arch Lector goes, it's basically him versus Ilario and the Frostheart Phoenix, and he might even have a shot of beating them. But there's just too much weapon strength right now between us. And it says victory is in our grasp, and we managed to break him off. So thanks for being a good sport, guys, and playing that battle to the end. Tovin the Cowardly and King Hammer, excellent sports. Very fun battle. You know, my army comp is a little cheesy, but a little fun. Honestly, it's bad, to be real. It's not a good army composition. I took it purely for fun. I love the idea of microwing 3 separate groups of cavalry, and just having enough infantry to support my ally. And then Triari's build, of course, had the healing. It had the staying power of the Phoenix, which was great. A little more cautious use, perhaps, of Albric in the beginning. And, you know, committing him to ground fights so he couldn't be picked off so easily from the air. And then supporting him with Knights of the Realm, Knights of the Lion-Hearted. Basically keeping your anti-large tools near your most valuable targets and most vulnerable targets, you know, like Albric and your casters. That can go a long way in making sure that you have longevity on a unit like Albric. And absolutely great play from Tovin, using his Bestigors to screen me out at the beginning of the battle, and then getting his Centaurs with throwing axes up and around and demolishing those Phoenix Guard before the start of the battle. The only real miss micro at all, I think, was just, and it wasn't even really a miss micro, you know, he committed Centaurs with great weapons against armored cavalry. Anti-infantry cavalry at that. So they were probably fighting the right target, but without any kind of support and fighting near the edge of the map like that, you kind of have to expect for them to get crushed. And Vanguard deployed could have served them well if we had gone with more traditional builds. You know, he might have caught our artillery pieces unawares, and at that point, that would have been a really solid build to take. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I know this is a long one, but this is the Game 3 in a kind of best of 3 series that Triari and I played together. And it's going to be the last thing that I upload before tomorrow, before the big release day, and we get a chance to play some of the new campaigns, and we get to play multiplayer for the first time with some of the new units. I'm super stoked about it. I hope you guys join me and watch some of those videos that I upload. Join me in my first ever campaign videos. I finally have a computer powerful enough to do the campaign on ultra settings just like I've always wanted, and it should be a good time. So without any further ado, y'all, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Once again, my name is Brett. My channel is Good Talk Gaming. If you would like to join my Discord, the link in the description for that will be down below. So anyway, guys, take care, and I will see you in the next one. Later, y'all.